What's up? All right. Let me just get a little set up here. All right. So today I want to style the menu, do the drop downs and just make it look like the current live sites menu. Something like that. Maybe I'll do the drop downs a little differently. But basically I just want to do that. Quickly, there'll be like 2 changes. I'm gonna make the search bar match. And then I won't even scroll down there. I can do it like this. And then add this footer in because there's no footer on here right now. I would like to do those. I don't think it'll take a full hour, but maybe it will because it always takes longer than I think. And then, but if I have time afterwards, I thought I'd show how to do a custom element. So for the site now, where you previously could sign up to get notified if I go live, I put all the old streams on there. And to do that, I had to make a custom element in Builder that's like a responsive YouTube embed element. There actually is a YouTube embed element, but it's not responsive by default. So I made a new one using embedresponsively.com, which is a really cool site anyway. Like if you're using embed code that's not responsive, you can go there and it'll kind of like wrap it and give you new responsive code. So it'd be cool to show that afterwards. Not really go step by step, it's already built, but just show how it works because to do it, I wrote some JavaScript. But first, I'll do this menu stuff. And so I'm gonna go to the current live site first and just inspect and check out what's on here. And I think this is pretty straightforward. So there's an A, which is a link here. And I can see already that header ULLIA. So this whole thing is a UL, an unordered list. Each item is an LI, a list item, ULLI. And so then I have the A here. So I just have these properties, and then I bet it's just a quick hover property. If I force state hover, yeah, I can see it just adds that color. So that's cool. That's really straightforward. And then to put that onto the menu here, zoom in. Put that on the menu here. Looks like I've got a menu. Oh, so these menu items are just sitting in here as inline elements. So I'll add a little bit to those to make them function to be ready for the drop downs, and then add those styles. But this actual link here, I can add those styles quickly because these will all be the same. I already have a class, it looks like, called link no code list, and I've got some stuff on it. So since I'm pasting CSS, I'm going to go right to this CSS tab, and remember I could do all properties and find what I want. I could do used properties, which shows only the ones that have a value set, and I add new ones from my memory, basically, the ones that I know I'm going to type. I don't know why it's not dropping out right there. Like that. Or I can paste CSS. And in this case, I'm going to come into because it's already done here, I'm going to come in here and just copy these properties, just paste them right in here. And I did set this site up a little differently to where the color on the base level is that 2.6, so I actually don't need it here. And then let's see, the rest are fine. I probably don't need vertical line middle, but that's okay. So those are bold now, and they're bold on here. And then I just need that hover, which was, I can force state hover, and then I can just copy the color value here. And then on this link no code list class, I can choose hover, and I can add the color property and just paste that value in there. And then that works, and it transitions. And on here, it should look a little more like the other one. Yep. And so to add the drop downs is where I'll change the structure a little bit. What it is each of these menu options is a list item. And then inside of that list item, if there's a drop down, there's an extra container in there. And that container is hidden by default. And then when you hover over the list item, the container shows. So what I'm going to do is in Builder, I'm going to have each of these list items. Right now, it's just a link. So it's technically on the code end, it's just an A tag. I'm going to change each one to be a container. And then inside of it is that A tag. And then if there's a drop down, that'll be inside of the container as well. And then it'll be hidden with a class. And then what we'll do is when we hover over the option here, we'll add a class to show that menu. And by adding and removing a class, that's what it would allow me to transition it in and out. So that this transition is just CSS. It's like, it's translated Y, it's pushed up, and its opacity is 0. And then when you add or remove a class, I don't remember how it's set up here, it changes those properties, and there's a transition class. So that's where that transition comes from. So I'm going to first just create a few containers. And to do that, I add the container element, and then I remove that default container class, if you remember, which basically now this is just a div. But what it really is it's like one menu option. And so if you consider this container menu is like the outside grid, each grid item would be this one of these divs. So you could call it like menu option or something. And I'll actually give it a class just because I know I'm going to probably use this. What's happening? It's locking up on me, sorry. Just going to wait a second for it. I typed the word option, it just didn't pop in yet. Might have to refresh. It's all frozen up. My whole computer looks like it's frozen up. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm just going to come in there, add that class. I'll do it as I do it instead of saying it first. Say it as I do it. All right, so I got this menu option here. I add a new class of menu option. And one of the things I know is going to be on that class is a position. So I talked a lot about this last time, I think, or maybe 2 times ago, where when you're positioning things, they are positioned to their closest parent with a position class, a position property. So these drop downs that are on each, if each one of these is a div, is a container, the drop down is going to be inside of it. I know I need to make this a position relative so that the drop down inside, which is position absolute, will appear lined up with it. And again, that's just CSS. It's not builder specific, but it's something that you need to know pretty much. I mean, you could do menus in all different ways, but this is pretty standard, I think. So I just made that position relative, which again, if you remember, that doesn't change anything visually. It stacks and is in line with everything else. But anything inside of it will be positioned relative to it. So that's kind of just some initial setup. I'll drag this first link inside of this menu option. And what I'm going to do, you can see it looks a little crazy right now, but what I'll do is I'll set up the drop down inside of here first and make sure it works on one, and then we'll apply this to each of the other ones. But in the meantime, just so it looks normal, I'll just add a few properties to the menu itself, which is what will make it line up. And I'm going to do these on inline properties and later move this to a class. I know this will need to be a class because for mobile, the menu completely changes. And I don't do 2 separate ones usually. I just change it with CSS. So, but that's coming later. So for now, I'm just going to pop some properties on here. I'm going to do display grid. And this is a theme for me. So if you've watched a bunch of these, this is just how I do a lot of stuff. But we'll do grid template columns of, actually, I think I can write one FR auto. Maybe I can. Maybe I can't. I don't think that works. There's a way to like repeat, but I'm just going to type the amount of options there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that spaces them out evenly. So that's definitely gonna have to change because I wouldn't want to do that long term, because if the screen is too narrow and it can't fit 5 across, it's gonna force them all across. But this is just so we can see it now. So they're laid out correctly, and then we'll be able to see this drop down correctly. So I think that first one has a drop down software, and it does. So what we'll do is inside of this menu option, we have that link, which is software, is going to be visible. Then we'll add another container. And this one, well, remove this again. This is like a menu drop down. So inside of menu option, this is a drop down. So I might, I'll just give it a class to call it. So we'll do a primary class. Menu option drop down. Now this one is going to be position absolute. And again, I know that because of CSS. It's not builder specific, but that's what I want to do. I want to position this inside of its parent and have it, that way, you know, it can slide down underneath the menu option, but it doesn't move anything else out of the way, or, you know, whatever. So I put it position absolute, and then I give it a width of 100%. And I'm not going to give it a height for right now, but I'll give it a left of 0, which again is to its parent with a position. You can see it's forming over here. Maybe I can zoom in a little. So where that drop down is, like right here. I don't know what this hover's doing. And then for right now, let's do, just so we can see it, I'm going to give it a quick background color of white. And so what we want in this container is really just the same thing that are out here, these links. So I'm just gonna, for now, copy this software link and paste it into this container. So now there's a drop down of it in itself. So if I refresh, we'll see it. Oh, very interesting. Let me clear my data real quick and make sure that's showing the most up to date, because I wouldn't expect that to happen, but you never know. Might be because I didn't write top 100%, but I didn't expect it to go full width like that and cover everything. There you go. That's more what I expected. All right, so it's spacing these out evenly, which you can see is wrong. So we'll change that later. But you can see this drop down is here. It's got the white background. It's kind of like correctly relative to its parent. And then what we do is we set up 2 states. So that's kind of the normal state. And then we can add a class to it for hidden. So right now this is a container here. And actually I'm going to name it menu option drop down. It's got a primary style class here of menu option drop down. So here we can do menu option drop down hidden. And you can do this either way. You can add a class that hides it. So you style it by default shown, and then you can add a class that hides it, remove that class to show it. Or you can do the opposite, where you design it in the hidden state, the default's hidden, and then you add a class to show it. So it's kind of confusing. Like some people, I feel like when I explain this, people like it one way or the other usually. And I usually do it this way. I don't really know why, but basically I design it when I can see it, and then I add a class to hide it. So this hidden class, for now, what I'm going to do is an opacity of 0 and a translate Y of negative 100%. That's not the name. Transform of translate Y negative 100%. But I'm going to go check the other site, the live site, and see what those properties are for real. But I think that if we look now at this word software here, and I remove and add this class, you can see it comes in and out. And I don't think that transitioned Let's see. Yeah, it didn't transition, so I might not have a transition on here. That would need to be on this menu drop down. Oh yeah, I just typed this. So transition is a CSS property, and it has a lot of different, there's like transition, it's just like background where there's a lot of different parts, there's a lot of different background properties, there's a lot of different transition properties. A lot of times I do this like universal kind of like all to mean all properties, 0.25s meaning 0.25 seconds. You could also write 250 ms for 250 milliseconds. And then ease dash in dash out, which tells it to like start slow and end slow on the transition. I do that a lot. And then later, because I do believe the details are really important, I usually go finesse all my transitions because you can get really specific and do cool stuff. But that's a good general one if you just want to get something in and see it. And so, yeah, so now that'll work. But the last thing we'll need to do is add and remove that class. So there's a couple ways you would do this in real life where, like, imagine if I didn't know what these menu options were, I would create a new page for each menu option. And I only mention that because at this point, making the actions to like add and to hide and show dropdowns, you could be page specific. It wouldn't matter what that menu option is, you would have it one time on that page. I'm going to do it a little differently for this because I know this is a menu and only 2 of them have dropdowns. So I'm going to have some actions to hide and show specifically the software dropdown and then to hide and show the membership dropdown. And I'll just have them out here. So it's normally, you know, you might want to consolidate that, or if you didn't know what menu options you'd have in the future, you could make that more programmatic, more standardized. I'm not going to do that in this case. So I'm just going to make, I'm on this header element and I'm going to make a show software dropdown, a hide software dropdown, and actually I won't do the other one yet. Normally, since I know I would make them anyway, I'll make one for membership too, or make an action hide and show for membership too, but I won't do that for now. So for software, what we're going to do when we show that dropdown is we're going to remove that hidden class. So I can search for remove style class. The class was called menu option dropdown hidden. And then I want to remove that specifically from this one. So it's software menu option dropdown. And then to hide it, I'm going to add that class. So I can add style class. Class is called menu option dropdown hidden. And choose it here. And so now those actions are created. I can use them whenever. And in this case, I'll use them on this software link here. I can do it. Or what I know, you know, I know just from experience that I actually want to do it on this whole outside menu option. The reason being when I do mouse on, mouse over, and I show the dropdown, I can do mouse leave on this outside menu option. It'll include the dropdown as well. If I did the mouse over and mouse leave on just this software link here, then when I scroll down to use the dropdown, it would slide back up. So I know from experience, I'm going to do it on this outside one. You can actually set like on multiple, you can have it, you know, there's ways you can get around that. You might not even notice that happens if you just set it on a few things in here, but I know I can just set it on the outside one and I'm good to go. So I go to this menu option outside one, I go to the events. On mouse enter, I want to show the software dropdown, and on mouse leave, I want to hide it. And I think I kept the hidden class to start. Man, this is like loading so slowly. I didn't keep the hidden class. Actually, it looks like I did. Oh yeah. Let me just clear my data again. It might even be because I have this window open forever. I have like this streaming setup going and I don't change it. So I just keep all these windows open. But something's up here because it's not taking the styles and it's taking forever to load. All right, and so now when I hover over here, there we go. So that's pretty good. It's generally working. One thing that I know about it is its opacity 0 and it's translating 100% up. So technically that it exists right here. Like it's probably, I don't know how it lines up, but there might be a hidden drop down covering this word software and that link wouldn't work. So I do need to fix the actual styles of how it hides and shows. But for now, the bones of it work and it's in a class. So I can actually go and apply this setup to the rest of the menu options before I finesse all the details there. So I'm going to do that. So what I did is I have menu option here, and then I put software inside of it and added a drop down. For these other ones, they don't have a drop down, these middle three, but I'm still going to give them their own outside container. I don't have to. I could just leave this out in the open, but I'm going to standardize it a little, especially because in the next step, I'm going to add styles to these menu options. So I want each menu option to be consistent. So I'm just going to copy this and then I'm going to paste, but I'm not going to paste with children. So I don't need any of the inside stuff here. I'm just going to paste that menu option. And then I can put it in place here, drag resources into it. And actually, I don't need these actions on here because this is for the software dropdown. So now I have resources. It's in a menu option. Since I took the actions off, I'll recopy this one. Now I'm just going to paste it 1, 2, 3 more times. They pasted in each other. I'll fix that in a second. So that'll go here. This will go out here. This will go out there. Agencies in 1, stacks in 1, membership in 1. And then membership has a drop down. So I'll copy this drop down and this time I'll paste with children just so there's an example in there. And then I'll create these actions again. So show membership drop down and hide membership drop down. So for hide, we're adding the hidden class. And that's drop down hidden. And this time, since it's applying to membership, I do it down here. And then show, same thing but opposite. To show, we remove that style class. There. And then I just trigger that here. So on mouse enter, we show the drop down, and on mouse leave, we hide the drop down. It's crazy that it's doing such weird things, but oh wait. Let me clear my application data one last time. Sorry I keep doing that. I don't know if I even have to. I'm just trying to what's going on? Just trying to make it not read from the cache or do anything weird and make sure it has all the up-to-date changes. Oh my gosh. Man, my whole thing's just frozen up. It stopped on a debug though, because I probably had that open from before. There we go. So let me just refresh. And then okay. So the bones are there. We definitely need to change some styles and then add the real options in here. So membership just has 1 and software has a few. So let's do that now. So I can check this page for the drop-down styles, and depending on what they look like, yeah, I'll probably just copy these. Okay, man. Whoops. Oh, man. Sometimes it's tricky to copy out of here. All right, there we go. All right, and so that would be for this dropdown. I can go to any of them because it's a class, and the class is universal. So in order to see it while I work, I'm gonna remove this hidden class. And then since I copied that CSS, just come in here and paste it. Oh, so I did this one opposite. It looks like I see opacity 0. So it's like this one on the live site, the default is hidden, and then you probably add a class to show it. But this is opposite, so I don't need that opacity 0. I already have the left 0. Keep that padding. Already we got this. This is for hiding and showing it. This is for hiding and showing it. Keep that. And so this transform, is it rotating? -70%. So that's for hiding it too. I was just looking because that's basically, I did translate y -100%. It looks like I have it set to 70. And I probably had something rotating before that I don't use anymore. And then this transition is a little specific. At first it does all properties, similar to how I said, and then it does a separate one for max height. It looks like it just snaps to max height. So that's actually for, like I said, when it slides up, it might be covering the menu. It looks like I do the transition up, and then when it looks hidden, I make a max height 0 and snap it closed. So I'm going to remove that for now because I don't know how I'm hiding and showing. It's opposite. I don't want to cause any confusion. Basically, I ended up adding like a top and a padding top on there, I think. But that's okay. So you can see it here. And then whoops. Nothing too crazy on the actual items inside. It looks like they just have padding left and right. But what I have here is I have a menu link class, and these are just the menu link class also. So if I want to add padding left and right of 0.5 here, that probably is going to make sense because I want these links spaced out anyway. So let's see what it looks like. Oh, I already have it on there, so that's perfect. So the inside, these will be styled pretty correctly. I do wonder what this jump is like that. Let me check that out real quick. Could be this vertical line middle. Let's see what happens when I remove it. Well, it's just in the studio anyway, but I don't know what that is. So every time I go to say something, I have to pause by this loading. I apologize again. All right, so that's pretty much the same. I can remove that white background. I thought I already did, but there we go, didn't. And then before I set the options in there and make them real, let's just fix that original menu. When I set it to be display grid, let's try display flex instead. And we'll do justify content flex end. And we'll do just in case flex wrap. Wrap. This should push it all the way to the right side and make them closer together in space them out. Oh, maybe not. Let me do that. Let me do that application data real quick. I'll try to find out for next time. I was doing this last week too, but I've been working in Builder in between the whole time and this hasn't been happening. I think it's specific to either this browser tab or this project, so I'll figure it out before next time. There we go. And I probably need to set a width on here or something. That's why that. Oh, that's the drop down. I forgot to remove the hidden class, so it started off showing. So that's pretty good, actually. It looks pretty good. So let's put in the real menu options really quickly. So this one was build, and then we'll duplicate it. And we'll duplicate it. I don't have pages for these yet, so the link is just ##. which is like saying nothing. It's actually like saying an anchor tag on the page of nothing. Build, grow, run. And then I had 2 more. Oh, enterprise and niche. No idea if people even go to those. Niche is cool though. There's some weird ones, like some very niche software creators. All right. And then there's also a space in one of these. So like this drop down will work now, but I noticed I put a space. So I'm just gonna do that with a inline style. I'll show you. Oh, right. So those aren't even, those are spaced out because of this flex I put on there and stuff, and because they're not even display block anyway. So what I also need to do is in this menu drop down, the links have a link no codeless class, but I'll also give them a menu, I forget what I'll call this, but we'll call it menu drop down link. And for those, I'll do it in all props just to switch it up. I want to make them display block. So I can go find display right away, display block. That way they stack, you know, they're not in line. And was there something else I needed to do to those? I forget. I wish that would update live. Normally does. I might actually have to clear the cache though. Maybe this will just work. No, that's crazy. Just gonna open it in a new tab. Sometimes the tabs themselves get jammed up. Just to double check, I'm gonna do this, but I shouldn't actually have to do this anymore after this. I can just not do things that rely on this. But I just want to make sure that actually worked so I can move on instead of potentially I type something wrong or put the wrong property. All right, cool. So I just need, so that you can see with build, it added that class. I just need to add that class to the rest of them, but I can see it worked. And there's a few things in there like it looks like it's aligned right, probably because something higher has the text line right. So there'll be a few details, but since it's being weird and slow, we don't need to go crazy on those right now. It's more like playing around with it anyway. What do I call that? Menu drop down link. So if I would have added this class in the beginning and then I duplicated, it would have had all these, but I duplicated them a little early. So I just have to quickly add it to all of them. And then, like I said, I want to add some space above enterprise because on the real site there's a little space. So I'll just do that. I'll go to enterprise and in inline style, I can add a margin top. So right here. And I'll just say 1M, which is like almost like saying 100% because it's text. I don't know if that'll work. I won't make us wait for refreshing up the clearing application data to see if this works because I know it's correct. We'll see if it updates. No, it doesn't. So I'll refresh that, but then we don't need to watch it. I'll move on to the next thing because I think that's pretty much it. I'll fill out the membership one, which is really just changing a value, and then that's it. So menu drop down, instead of software, this one said sign in, sign up. And then this also had that, it didn't have the hidden class on it. So remember, we want to start it hidden. So that's that. So that's pretty much the menu. Hopefully that's refreshed now when I come back. Oops, probably need to click that. All right, solid. So they're aligned weird, and enterprise, the word looks like it's too big for the, it's like wider than the word software, so it's aligning weird. So there's a little more stuff to do, but that's pretty good. I just wanted to get the menu generally there. I can't finish it anyway because there's no pages that exist for them yet. So for now, I just want to get it there so it looks good, and then pop some styles into this tools section here, this search section, I mean, which should be really fast. So I'll just come into here, and something on here is limiting the width. I'm not sure what. Or where that comes from. Let me check the container. But I'm just going to set a width for it. It's not the container. So let's do, what I like to do for inputs generally is set width to be 100% and then set a max width to be what I want the actual width to be. That way on smaller screens are always the correct, they're never too wide, they're always 100%. But then on the large screen, you're kind of, that's where you're like designing the width you want. Oops. So I'll do max width. I'm just gonna match it to the live one. I'm not sure what it is, but I can check. I'll just look at it down here. 447, so plus that padding. I'm just gonna do 450. Max width 450 pixels. And then this little, looks like it's before the search. So I'll do that by adding a new element. So this is container, yep. So I'm just gonna add in a text box here. But I'm gonna set it, instead of a p tag, which is block level, I'm gonna set it to a span. And then the display text, I'm gonna do that magnifying glass. I think it was this one. Oops. Yeah. See how that looks. So probably it could be a little bigger, but that looks closer. And then yeah, it's starting to look good. I don't know why that's not updated. That's so crazy. And then I just need to do a footer. I'm gonna save the, this is a dumb reason, but I'm gonna save the footer until after I have these filters working, because it takes so long to scroll all the way down. And if we're testing the footer every time, we're gonna have to go back and forth. So we'll just wait for that one. So the, oh, that popped in up there. Nice. Oh, one more thing we can add to these is, see how it's a cursor, like a typing text cursor. They each have a class on them, so we'll add a cursor pointer, so it's a little hand and we know it's a link. And then I'll make this bigger and we'll be done with that stuff for now. And actually that's good timing. Then I'll go into that custom element, because I do want to show off how that works. I think it's kind of cool. It's at least cool. It's at least interesting. So the one thing I said to do is come out. I can take any of these links because they all have that class on them. Take this link, no codeless class, and add cursor and then pointer. So this is a drop down. I know it's cursor pointer. And then I also noticed this, I selected a drop down, but it doesn't have that extra class on it. Forget what's called, menu drop down link. It doesn't need it in that case because there's only one, so you wouldn't notice it even, but in case we put more in there, now it's got it. So that's good on menu. And then here, this just looked a little small. So I would just go into the inline styles and take size. Well, this is like size of the container. Really, this is text. Oh, there we go. Typography. Sorry, I don't usually use this view. Font size, let's say 2M, which is kind of like 200%. That might be too huge. Although it kind of looks cool, but 1.5M. Normally that just would, like when I switch that tab, it'll be updated. All right, that looks pretty good. So I think, yeah, I'll keep that there. And then in the last 20 minutes, oh, I know why that looked updated for, because I went like that. In the last 20 minutes, I'll show that element. And then for next time, I'll make sure that this is loading faster. We can finish up some of the other stuff. Some of the big things that are left on this page is like making these filters work and the footer, I guess. So I'm really excited to get off this page and like start moving to other stuff in the live stream. But like, yeah, speaking of that, I did want to show, so I'll switch gears now. This page, which I put a link at the top. I mean, I typed it because this is a video, but there's a link to this page, no-code-list-rebuild.builder.com. But this will have all of the old ones on there. And like, this is the last time I'll just put it up right after I finish. And then a link to watch it. And in order to do that, this little micro site is built in Builder. Where do I have it? Oh, okay. I don't have that set up in Builder. So that microsite is built in Builder, and I created a custom element to do this embed. This embed responsively YouTube embed. It's like this. Yeah. So this website is really cool, and like this would be like any YouTube link that you want to embed. You paste it in there, you hit embed, and it gives you this code instead of the default YouTube code. And that makes it responsive. So it puts a container around the code with some styles, and then puts the actual iframe embed here, and actually removes some of the attributes that YouTube gives you. So I haven't done a real YouTube embed in a while. Maybe they're even responsive now, I don't know, but they didn't used to be. And this is a really cool little technique where it uses padding bottom to make it responsive. So I wanted to kind of wrap this up in a Builder element. And what I did was I created, like when you're coming in and you're building a page, you have all these elements on the left side. I created one that's called YouTube embed. And so now basically to use this, you would drop it onto the canvas. I don't know if it's gonna let me drop it. And then just paste any YouTube URL in here. And it's set up to handle like any of the URLs. So if you get it from like a playlist or an embed and they're all different formats, it'll take any of them. And then you can also do, if you're using actions on the right, you can programmatically like set a video or change the video, that kind of thing. I'm not really doing that on my site. I'm just displaying them, but you could. And you can also, that also allows you to bind, like if I eventually will store these videos in the database, right now I just have them hard coded. Store them in the database and it'll bind it in the video. So anyway, there's all these actions, there's all these Builder specific stuff that this does. But really what it is you want to show a YouTube video, you want it to be responsive, and you just want to paste the link. So you use this element. And the image is broken here, but I saw this morning it's fixed on the new release. That'll be fixed. It's fixed in the dev environment. So yeah, I just wanted to show quickly how that works, how to make a custom element, because it's really interesting. It's like an advanced topic that 99% of projects, you don't need to create a custom element. But if you can write JavaScript, I guess, and since you can create a custom element, there's a lot of times where you're doing something and you're like, oh, I can make that so easy with a custom element. So I do it a lot for that reason. And I do a lot of what this is here, where I'm taking what normally is like a copy paste code snippet and converting it into a Builder specific thing. So it's like an element and it has the properties and you can set and get out of it, that kind of thing. So you do that in the dev library. And I forget if I went through dev library at all before on this stream, but every element and every action in Builder is like contained in your project. So you have them all right here. So I'm on actions right now. These are like all the actions. And if I change them in my project, I have full access to change them in my project so that they'll be specific to me and it won't affect anything else. You know, if I create a new project on the road, it's not like I'm breaking anything for any other projects, but they're just all in here. And so for that reason, you can add more, you can create custom ones. They're per project. If you want to share them, you can with patterns, which is what I did with this responsive YouTube embed actually. But basically all your project stuff is contained. So you have actions and you have elements, and this YouTube is an element. So some of the stuff that's in here, these are the actual elements you're dropping onto the canvas. So like dividers and email input. The one I made is called YouTube embed responsive. And to make an element, all you do is set some properties. It's pretty cool. So I gave it an icon, gave it a name, category. These are just some properties depending on what your element does. You know, if you want to be able to paste children elements inside of it or not, that kind of thing. You can give it a default style. In this case, it doesn't have one. And then importantly, there's a display render function. And so there's a bunch of render functions that come with Builder you might be using. In this case, I have a custom one, so I'll show that next. That's how I made this work. And then arguments. In this case, I only have YouTube URL, but this is like when you're using the image, these are the arguments. And so basically I don't use any code yet, and I create that element with the argument that's going to do something. And so in this case, what it does is it's going to use this other function, this display render responsive YouTube function. And to create that, I'm still under elements. I went to functions, and this is where JavaScript comes in. But the cool thing about it is that this JavaScript, to make it, is very straightforward. It's like, if you know JavaScript, it's actually pretty easy. So I did a few things. I mean, there's some details in here, but like I have it creating a unique ID and then finding the video URL from the input argument. And then I just create the div that comes with that embed normally, append it to the parent. Then I create the YouTube iframe, give it some properties, that kind of thing. And then because it's in Builder, I want it to be able to get the value out of an element, so you can use an action to see what it is, or set the value of an element. So if you have a video on the page and someone clicks a button to change it, you can set it in. So that's just what these two are. And then a thing to add that style to make it responsive to the head. And then I just return element. And that's all it is. Very straightforward. I copied some things like parent.append child to actually put on the page. Just copied that from a different render function. This get value and set value, just copied them from different render functions. So it was pretty easy actually. And once I have this JavaScript saved as a function, I can use it in one or many elements. But in this case, I just used it in that one element. And so now on this, on this page that I'm showing, this is a pattern for the embed element. So I kind of have like a demo page. There's actually an updated version of this. That's why it just says button there. So kind of a demo page. And then when I make it a pattern, I don't have it up on this screen on like an easy way to show it, but it's in the new environment, in the dev environment, it's already patterned, but I can make it a pattern. And then when someone else imports it into their project, they'll just get this new element in their list, this YouTube embed. So you can actually, if you know you need a YouTube embed at the beginning of your project, just import that pattern. Or if you're working on something and then you're like, how do I get a responsive YouTube in there? You can import at that point and you'll just get it and be able to use it. So yeah, and like I feel like there's so much more to say about all that stuff because it's kind of exciting. There's like all this, it's a new way to share resources basically, but it's been so useful. You know, we use it internally, and I use it like personally from project to project all the time, creating patterns just to copy something over. So there's a lot more I could say, but I think I'll leave it there because it's probably a lot. But I think the point is there's really cool stuff coming in the future as we build interfaces around these patterns and ways. You know, there's going to be a curated list where you can pop like the really good ones in your project in the beginning. There's going to be updates. So if I would create this embed and then later update it and make it a little better, everyone who has used it can get a little ping saying, hey, do you want to update? You know, you don't have to, but you give you the option to update. So lots of really awesome stuff coming in the realm of making custom elements. And like what I have, let's see, I think I can pull this up. What I have is some stuff started on my profile that will go live soon, where you can just come here and you can just grab these patterns. So I have an Airtable integration, a Stripe integration. Here's that YouTube embed, a tweet button, some templates, user auth, and basically you just click on these and use them. You can import them into your project. You can test them out here in this read-only mode. So it's really exciting what's coming. It's going to be really cool. I mean, it is already really cool, but it's going to be really cool when more people than just the builder team are using these, and a few others. There have been some others using patterns. So, but yeah, I think I'm going to call it for now. I'll be back on Wednesday. And yeah, thanks for watching. and see you next time.